Thank you so much, Isiadua and KMJ. Of course, I wish I was in the studio, but today is all, something else for me. I'm excited that I had to leave you guys in the studio and come all the way here to speak to our guest for today, the big interview. My name is Roslyn Felly, and today we have somebody who doesn't, she's not a Ghanaian, but she lives in Ghana, she loves Ghana, and she said, I applied to be here. She is the Australian High Commissioner to Ghana. Her name is Mrs. Berenice-Owen-Jones. Good morning, Mrs. Berenice-Owen-Jones.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for allowing us into your humble abode. You have a beautiful place, I was telling you earlier.
Thank you.
Okay, so now people out there are definitely wondering who you really are, because when we go on the internet, we just get a little bit about yourself. We get, you speak French. That's what I got.
Correct.
You speak it very well?
Yes, I'm very much a francophile because I was lucky enough to be born and bred in Paris, but I'm Australian.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about yourself then.
All right, so I've been in Ghana for about 4 or 5 months, and I came here with my husband. Unfortunately, I had to leave my 3 young adult children behind, but I have one visiting at the moment.
Okay.
I've been previously posted, I was ambassador to Morocco, fairly recently actually, and before that I've had postings, well I had a posting in Paris, but I've also lived in, as I mentioned, lived in Paris for a long time, hence the sort of francophone connection.
Okay, now your coming to Ghana, was it strange or it was something that you really wanted to do?
I really wanted to go back to Africa. So I'd had that posting to Morocco, and I was very keen to explore sub-Saharan Africa. Ghana came up, and I'd heard only good things from my predecessors who've served here. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I had to apply for Ghana when it came up. And no regrets.
No
buyer's remorse.
None, and there will never be any regret, trust me. Ghana is a place to be. You might end up changing your nationality.
Well, everyone I know, all my predecessors come back. They want to come back. They come back because the country gets under their skin. They love it. Or they get involved in voluntary work, that kind of thing. But they all want to come back. So it's a very good sign.
Let's talk about what you heard about Ghana that made you decide to come here.
Well, the first thing is Ghana, one of the things I knew about Ghana is that it was a very stable, peaceful country in West Africa, culturally fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and also Accra itself is a very livable, modern, fast-paced city with a bit of traffic occasionally, but I'm getting used to that.
You can manage it.
I can manage it, and plus I don't have to commute because, as you probably noted, my office is just, well, you can't see it,
right.
It's in the garden.
So all you have to do is just wake up in the morning, bath, walk to the office. When you're hungry, come home, eat, and you're back to the office.
That's right. And I'll tell you something, the closer you live to work, the later you are at work. I've never understood that.
So what time do you get to the office?
Well, it depends. I've got to say I do a lot of work early in the morning because Australia's in a very different time zone. So when I wake up, the first thing I do is check what's happened during the day in Australia. Then I check the news here, and very often there's early morning meetings, so sometimes that's 7 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I actually make it through the door, it can be 8:30, 9 o'clock.
How are you adjusting to the weather though? Ghana is hot.
Yes, okay, so that did take a bit of adjustment. You'll notice I've got the air conditioning on at Arctic temperatures, and it takes a bit of adjustment, but is the hot season still, are we in the hot season yet?
Yes, we are.
Yes, I've noticed the difference over the last few months, over the last few weeks, sorry, it's much more humid. But, it's all part of being in a tropical, lush, tropical country.
Let's talk about some of the things that Australia has been doing for Ghana for the past 5 years. Of course, you're being here it's 4 months so far, but you have predecessors who've been here, and they've done a lot in the last 5 years. The benefits that Ghana has gotten from you.
All right. So yes, I should absolutely credit my predecessors, but. You asked about the last 5 years, but it's important to note that we've had a High Commission here in Ghana since 1958, February 1958.
Right.
So we were one of the first countries to recognise the newly independent Ghana. So we've got, in taking up my role here, I was very aware of this very long-standing relationship between Australia and Ghana, underpinned by strong people-to-people links. There's quite a few Ghanaians in Australia now, about 10,000. And
a few Ghanaians, 10,000.
10,000.
10,000 is not few.
10,000 Ghanaians.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It is.
Ghanaians are everywhere.
They're everywhere. Australians are everywhere, but they don't migrate. They tend to travel. They're very adventurous travellers. So you'll find Australians popping up everywhere as well.
Right.
So strong people-to-people links, but also shared values. We're part of the Commonwealth, and we both support the international order. We work well in international forums. So it's that part of the job is easy for me. It's quite easy because we've got so much in common. And the other thing is, particularly over the last few years, we see how influential Ghana is in the region. It's really got a voice globally, of course, as Ghana has currently got a seat on the Security Council, but also regionally, recently as chair of ECOWAS. And it's a voice that's needed at the moment because the region, the immediate sub-region, is a little bit unstable. So from a foreign policy point of view, we continue to work very closely. But I'm sorry, I'm probably getting ahead of myself a little bit. You probably have other questions you want to ask.
No, just go ahead and talk.
So I also wanted to say that we've got a very strong relationship that goes back years,
Right.
To do with mining. So Australia has huge mining investments in West Africa more broadly,
Right.
about $30 billion worth of investment, so that's quite considerable. So the relationship is very much underpinned by this strong commercial relationship as well.
And that's a relationship that obviously we never have to break. As when we hear relationships like that, we call it a solid relationship. You know,
Yes.
that solid relationship. Now I know there's so many people out there watching, and they just want to be like you. You know, the question here is, how did you even become an ambassador in the first place?
Well, I'm what you call a career foreign service officer, meaning that I joined the foreign service and then I worked in different areas of the foreign service. And the thing is, I chose to be a generalist, so I didn't specialize in a particular area.
Right.
I've worked on peace and security, I've worked on trade, on development, I've worked on bilateral issues, you know, on different countries, with different countries. So I've been quite versatile, and yes, being an ambassador seemed like the next step for me. So yes, I'm a career foreign service officer. Most of us are. There are political appointments, of course, but mostly we work our way up through the foreign service.
Has it been fun so far?
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. It's an incredible privilege. But yes, you're right to mention it's fun. There's so much variety in the job.
Which part of the job do you love the most?
Oh, that's a very good question. I like most parts of the job. Probably not getting up at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes, but I have to, as I said early on. But what do I like most? So there's both ends of the spectrum. There's a very formal part of the job, which is protocol. For example, I had the great honour a couple of months ago of presenting credentials to your president at Jubilee House.
Okay.
That was incredible. It was such a beautifully orchestrated ceremony with the pomp, and it was extremely formal and such an honour. At the other end of the spectrum, I love going out in the community, particularly working on development projects, and that's sort of more rolling up your sleeves. It's much less formal, but it's incredibly satisfying because I'm making a difference. I feel as though the High Commission is making a difference in those communities where it's got very good development projects.
Right. Now let's talk about the plans that the Commission has for Ghana. Obviously, you being here, there's so many plans that you have for us. Tell us some of it.
Well, I mentioned the very strong relationship based on mining and well, that's well established now. But I'd like to work to diversify the relationship a bit more in other areas. Australia is also it's a mining superpower, but it's also got leading edge expertise in all sorts of areas like agriculture, ag tech, health services, and it's also one of the best or well-known market for international students, the third largest in the world. So I'd very much like to try and work to diversify the relationship. And what I'd like to do over the next 3 years is to be a bit of an advocate for what Australia can contribute. Mining, of course, very important, but also in these other areas where we have expertise that could be of use to Ghana. But it works both ways. When I go back to Australia, I turn into a bit of an ambassador or High Commissioner for Ghana, working with your colleague actually in Canberra, drawing attention to opportunities here in Ghana.
Now, you being an ambassador for Ghana, when you step out there, and as you're in Ghana, you're an ambassador for Australia as well. You are also, the High Commissioner to 8 other countries, non-residential.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So that's going to keep me very busy and on planes very often, because I cover 8 other countries in the region. So a good chunk of West Africa, except Nigeria and Benin. So I've only presented credentials in one of them, Guinea, a couple of weeks ago. In all those countries we have interests, development projects and mining interests predominantly. Okay. So it will keep me very busy, and I really look forward to discovering.
So which countries are these?
Which
countries? The 8 countries?
Oh, the 8 countries. So the 8 countries are Côte d'Ivoire. So many of them are French speaking, so my French comes in handy. Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Togo, and I'm forgetting one, I'm sure. What am I forgetting? Guinea? I'm forgetting Guinea. I mentioned Guinea because I'd already presented credentials there. So, yes, it's going to be quite a bit of work.
How often do you have to visit their countries?
Well, I have to present credentials to the head of government, to the president, and but then I try to follow up with a proper bilateral program, visiting the various development projects. It could be going more out of the capitals, if the security situation allows it, of course, because it can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I get you. Well, let's talk about your plans that you have for women, girls. I'm excited about that particular conversation. Tell us about it.
Yes, so I touched upon our development projects. So a big focus of our development, we've got a small grants development program that's managed by the High Commission, and I'm very proud of that program because it's community based, so it's very targeted on the needs of the community, particularly in rural areas. So let's take Ghana as an example. At the moment, for instance, we've got a nice project running supporting 235 women producing shea butter and dairy products, but we also, as part of the project, they're getting training in microfinance, basically income generation. Okay. So quite a few of our programs focus on the economic empowerment of women. And women and girls is a big focus of our development program more generally, and our foreign policy even.
Okay.
So gender equality is a key value for us.
Now, I had to ask you this because I'm going to take you back to how, growing up was like, your childhood. Because as a woman, you come to Ghana, it's a little bit different. So tell us how your growing up was like.
So I grew up in Paris, in an expatriate Australian family, so a very different upbringing. And I had a very solid, comfortable, stable childhood. Travelled quite a bit, so that was quite a privilege. And I think from that came my interest in foreign policy issues. Actually, fairly young age. Well, not that young. You know, when you're very young, you want to do things like, I don't know, be an astronaut, that kind of thing. But
is that what you wanted to be?
No, I actually wanted to be, at one point I wanted to be a doctor actually, but I lost interest in that.
That's like everybody's dream. I want to be a doctor. Then as you grow up, you realize I don't want to be a doctor.
Yes, it's very common. People realize it's not for them. But I started taking an interest in the world around me, current affairs, and yes, this job has been very rewarding in that aspect too. I like to think of foreign policy as it's so varied because you're dealing with all sorts of issues, and there can be really tricky issues like climate change, people trafficking, counterterrorism. What I call well, actually, I don't call it this. Your compatriot and former UN Security General Kofi Annan calls them problems with our borders, and that's always been fascinating to me. But yes, as a young adult, let's say. And I like languages.
Okay, so it was the languages. I was going to ask you what got you into it, because you lost interest in a doctor, which I lost interest in it as well.
You want to be a doctor as well,
when I was growing up.
Yes.
And then I realized that no, it's not my thing. So
Same here.
What made you love all of these? What changed? What happened?
That's a good question. I don't think I woke up one morning with an epiphany. Oh, I want to be the ambassador, the High Commissioner to Ghana. I think it was a bit of a progression. I realized that I was taking an interest in current affairs, and this is really going to date me and reveal my age. I remember one of the first big international events that I took an interest in was the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, and I was very, very young, but it made an impression on me. And also my parents, because they travelled the world, and
so you saw a lot when you were travelling.
Yes.
Did you come to Africa when you were growing up?
No, actually, there was a continent I didn't know at all before I went to Morocco as ambassador. So it's always held this mystique for me.
And is it any different when you went to Morocco? Before you went to Morocco, was it different from what you imagined it to be?
No, Morocco lived up to all my expectations. It's very mysterious and interesting and exotic place, but very different to sub-Saharan Africa.
Oh, really?
Very different. Yeah.
How different?
Well, it's very much part of the Arab world. It's got a very Mediterranean climate. It's got roots in Africa, but the trees, the branches of the trees are in Europe.
Okay, all right. So now let me talk about Ghana a bit. We've done a little bit of Morocco. We've done a little bit about Ghana. Let's talk about what you really love about Ghana.
Where to start? So what I really love about Ghana, but first of all, let's start with the spirit of the people.
Okay.
So they're pleasant, they're cheerful and smiling in the face of adversity, because I know that Ghana's going through a bit of a difficult time at the moment, but people are unfailingly smiling and I'd say even brave. And there's such a nice atmosphere. So people say that. It's almost become a bit of a cliche. The Ghanaians are so warm. It's true. It's very true. The other thing I like about Ghana is the vibrancy of the culture. And for me, it's a wonderful voyage of discovery because it's so diverse. How many languages are spoken here? 52?
Yes, a lot of languages. Even in Accra, Greater Accra, we have so many. Different languages. There's a Ga, there's a Gadangbe, there's a there are different languages.
Please don't test me on my tweet yet. I'm working on it.
Have you tried it though?
No.
Not at all. So you haven't been taught anything in Tree?
Oh yes, please don't test me on it. But I'm getting on YouTube and I'm practicing a little bit, but I'm not ready to practice publicly yet.
Okay, so nothing so far?
Well,
to say?
The very basic
so the basic one is like akwaba,
food dishes. But the other thing I like about Ghana is culturally it's really interesting. There's so many cultural festivals, and I believe we're going into the festival season, the party season here in Accra. So I'm really looking forward to that. And also the fashions. I've always taken a bit of an interest in fashions, and I love the the kente cloths and the way the women dress, it's always impeccable. The roads are like a bit of a fashion runway here. So the fabrics, the colour, the vibrancy. I don't know whether it's not the woven kente, but it's the beautiful fabric.
Don't worry, I'm going to bring you one. I promise to bring you a woven kente. So you wear it this festive season.
I need it. I need it, absolutely. And the other thing I love is the music and the dancing. It's quite clear to me I'm going to have to learn a bit more dancing so I can have a few moves.
Are you a good dancer?
I'm not a bad dancer, but I used to dance in nightclubs. Again, I'm showing my age. But I like that aspect of the culture very much. It's a lot of fun, but it's early days for me, so I've got quite a lot to discover.
Right. Okay, so we have some messages coming in. Sorry, some messages coming in. We'll quickly read the messages out. I think people are really loving you this morning. Getting to know more about you. I mean, 4 months in Ghana, and you love Ghana already. So somebody wants to know what your favorite dish is.
Okay, so I like jollof, mainly because it's got this really interesting aroma and it's sort of deep red. And for me it captures the heritage of Ghana. I have a lot more to try. I'm ashamed to say I haven't tried fufu. That's a really basic one. But what I'd like to do, I know you've got questions coming in, but could people perhaps get on our Facebook page, Australian High Commission Facebook page, and make suggestions for food and places that I should visit and places to hang out, because I've only been here 5 months and I need suggestions. Okay. I haven't left Accra very much yet.
So which food have you heard about that you wish to taste?
So I mentioned fufu. I love plantains. I can eat plantains for breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Okay.
Very nice. I'm very willing to experiment.
So watching.
I need a bit of guidance.
You know, the latest food is gobe.
What's that?
Say gobe.
Gobe.
Gobe. Now gobe is beans.
Yes.
And we fry plantain to add to the bean sauce. It's very nice. You add a little bit of gari and you're good to go.
And I've had red.
Okay, yeah. It's the same as gobe.
And the thing about a lot of this food, it seems to be quite healthy actually, because it's got a lot of pulses and I'm a bit of a health fanatic, and it's healthy food and very nutritious.
So we'll try our gobe. There's a red. The jollof, we've already done it, so we'll go for wache.
Yeah.
We'll try the banku.
Yes.
Have you tried, not yet, but banku, right?
Banku, is that the sticky sort of fishy one?
Yes, that one. Have you tried it?
That's probably more of an acquired taste, but I will get around to it.
Right.
It'll be one of my KPIs.
Okay, all right. So
Eating banku.
You go on their page and make sure that you just put in the location and the food should go try it there. Yes. And of course, and then you reply, right? You let them know that you tried it.
Yes.
You should take pictures and let us see.
So I'd like to do that, and I'm going to on Facebook very shortly. I'm going to be giving a bit of a chat about my first impressions of Ghana, so perhaps people can get on and make suggestions, correct me if they feel as if I'm heading in the wrong direction. But I also need to know a bit more about Accra and the surroundings, because I feel as though I'm only scratching the surface at the moment.
You are. This Christmas, I have to come pick you from the house and take you to town. Let's paint the town red.
That's a deal. That's a date. Yeah.
Do you want to club?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
At this age, you no more clubbing? Or would you club?
No, that's fine. I will take one of my young adult children with me as well. They can be my chaperone.
Okay, so we are clubbing this festive season.
That's a date.
Now, okay, let me go back and get some more messages coming in. Okay, this one says, what do you do to relax?
Right, now that's almost the hardest question you've asked me so far.
Okay.
So I do relax by reading. I like literature, visual arts, and again I want to explore Ghanaian literature. I think there's some really good Ghanaian writers who write thrillers. I think there's a female writer who writes really good thrillers. So again, please, if you could jump on Facebook and make suggestions, that would be fantastic. So reading. I also do a bit of fitness, but mainly so I can stay healthy and cope with the long hours and eat all the rich foods and stay fit.
Okay.
So health and fitness, reading, travel for work and fun, and relaxing with my family.
I can tell you really love to travel.
I like exploring. So
okay.
I have
have you realized any of our, or noticed any of our tourist sites since you came?
No, again, I need suggestions. I've really stayed within the immediate vicinity of Accra, including for a couple of our development projects, but I want to go much further afield.
Okay.
So I want to explore. This is my country for 3 years, or 3 or 4 years.
Or maybe forever.
Who knows? Who knows? So I want to explore every corner of it.
Mm-hmm. So we will start. You haven't been to the north yet, have you? No.
Okay. I really want to go to the north. I want to go to Mole National Park.
Mm-hmm. You want to see the elephants?
I want to see all the wildlife. But I also want to see how the landscape changes to become a bit more like the savannah. So that's very interesting to me as well. Mm. And the different tribes. And in my capacity, I hope that I can meet some of the chiefs as well in the region. So there's lots to do.
Right. Okay, let's take our next question. And okay, so this one is saying that you did speak about the fact that Ghana is in hard times, and you do understand. Also, we know that the world is in hard times. So what advice will you give us in these difficult times to soothe us?
All right. So Australia has also gone through a bit of a hard time because of COVID, obviously. But it's also had a lot of good luck. Australia didn't have, for about almost 30 years, it didn't have a recession at all. Oh. And then the economy slowed during COVID, then recovered quite quickly. And economists often wonder about Australia because it's a bit of an economic miracle. So what is it? Is it good luck or good management? It's probably a little bit of both. Okay. So we've been very lucky in that they say geography is destiny. We're very close to the powerhouse of Asia, and we have provided the coal, the iron ore, the wheat, the cattle, the wool that they need for the development. So that's been good luck. But we've also had a good management. We did the tough work, the structural reforms in the early 80s. We floated our currency. We lowered trade barriers. So that tough work, we did it quite a few years ago. Right. And it stood us in good stead. And it was meant that we were quite resilient when there were external shocks. In fact, we made it through the big economic recession, the Asian financial crisis, quite well. So the thing is, when you can, you try and build that resilience, and when there are good times, you save for a rainy day as well. I should say another important feature of the Australian economy, that this might be of interest in the Ghanaian context, is the fact that we were a resource-based economy. We still are, but we've diversified. And now you'd be surprised to hear that goods and services are almost 80% of GDP.
Yep.
So it's about diversification as well. So I don't know whether there are any lessons in there for Ghana. I shouldn't be giving lessons to Ghana. That's not my role. But I think Australia is an interesting example.
Right. We would love to visit Australia. And so I would love you to sell Australia to people watching us now. What about Australia that, we should come see?
So this is, Australia is a country like no other. Literally, it is like no other country. First of all, it's an island continent. There's no other island continent. It's got the most incredible diversity in terms of fauna and flora. You'll see things you'll see nowhere else. That's what I mean. It's totally unique. I know it's a long way away. It's a 23-hour flight, But I call it the tyranny of distance, and part of my job is overcoming that tyranny of distance,
right,
and making people understand that it shouldn't be a deterrent, it shouldn't put you off from coming to Australia or trading with Australia. Once you get to Australia, you'll find an incredibly innovative, successful, multicultural society. I would say probably the most successful multicultural society in the world, and that's reflected in our cuisine,
right,
in a lot of our culture. It's reflected, you'll be interested to know, in our in the Socceroos, the team that are playing.
The World Cup.
They're playing in the World Cup.
You are playing the World Cup.
We are playing in the World Cup.
Gonna win?
3. Okay, well, I can only say go Socceroos. We never know what will happen when they wear the national colours, green and gold. They can be extremely exciting. But the point I wanted to make about that team is that they reflect Australian society, very multicultural. 3 of the very good players are from Africa.
Right.
They're refugees from Sudan. Some of them born in camp, one of them born in camp in Kenya, another one in Egypt. And they've travelled a long way, and this is fantastic. But this is Australia, very multicultural, very diverse. And what else can I say about Australia? I think we probably need a whole other interview for me to talk about what a wonderful country it is. It's the landscapes are breathtaking, from the beaches to the red outback. Before leaving for Africa, I thought, I can't call myself Australian because I haven't seen Uluru, the red centre of Australia. And the reason why many Australians haven't made that trip is because it's a huge trip to do. Okay. It takes 3 or 4 days by car, and it's only the centre of the country. To cross the country would be like going from New York to LA, so it's a little bit daunting. But I did it, and it was almost a religious moment seeing the red centre of Australia with Uluru in the middle. It's breathtaking.
I think we have to all visit the place before, we depart the earth, because we've heard so much about Australia, and it's just that place that you dream of being and seeing and feeling.
That's right, that's right. If you can just get past the 23 hours on the plane, once you're there, it's completely worth it. And part of my job here will be to try and get Australia understood a bit more, past the cliches of the kangaroos and the koalas. Sure, that's wonderful, but there's so much more about Australia.
We can wait to visit Australia. Now we are still on the World Cup. What are your predictions?
Oh, for Ghana, for the
World Cup.
Look, it's very early days. Australia is in a difficult category with some very good countries, category D. Ghana's got the enthusiasm, cold countries behind the Black Stars, so who knows? Who knows?
Do you think Australia will make it to the finals?
Look, it's my patriotic duty to say that they've got every chance.
Okay.
But then it's also my diplomatic duty to say that the Black Stars have got a pretty good chance too.
I like how you said it. Pretty good chance.
Pretty good chance.
It means it's good.
Yes.
So are you going to wear the Ghana colours anytime we play?
Only once Australia's out of the game.
Until then, it's Australia colours all the way.
Yeah.
You are definitely somebody that we all ought to admire. You're so admirable. Your journey, of course, is something that, I'm just sitting here listening to you and I'm like, okay, maybe one day I should be an ambassador and go study what you studied and probably change my route. It's very possible, isn't it? Or it's too late?
Not at all. Not at all. You're very young, and the world is your oyster. So, in fact, there's no specific course of study to become an ambassador.
Okay.
To be a good ambassador, I think you have to be good with people. You have to be a good manager, a good leader of people, and a proud representative of your country. So, if you've got those qualities. And it's also good to, these days, to be a bit of a digital diplomat as well, so to know how to work with social media, with the media, so you're already ahead of the game. and also to be good with, you have to be able to put up with some of the more, how should I put it, mundane aspects of the job in writing reports. But that's fine. The reports are often very interesting and analytical. You've got to be good with words, a good writer, because for a diplomat, words and the ability to use them persuasively are your daily currency. So I think if you've got those attributes, you're ahead of the game.
We are good to go.
Good to
Watch
go.
out for me. Maybe I'll be the ambassador from Ghana to Australia. Who knows? One day.
One country, one country.
Anyway, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to come into your humble abode and have a great conversation with you. We're very grateful. Our people are watching you. I don't know what you want to say to the Ghanaians out there watching, but do say something.
I want to say I'm looking forward to the next 3 or 4 years in your wonderful country. And if you want to find out a bit more about what the Australian High Commission does, please jump on our website and on our Facebook and social media, and offer advice and guidance about the best things about Ghana, things that I really should know about and find out about.
Berenice, thank you so much. Very grateful.
Thank you.
My guest for the big interview today has been Berenice Owen-Jones. She is the Australian ambassador to Ghana. I've had a great conversation with her, and I know you have learned a lot as well. But let's go back into the studio for Esiedua and KMJ to take us away.